Hey, can whoever's here hear me? I'm going to try to get into this presser about the hurricane going on in Florida. So just give me just a minute. I'm going to jump into that. I hope y'all can hear me. I haven't done a live in a while. Hey, Cassius Gems, love. Thank you. Can you hear me?
Well, good afternoon. Here in Levy County, we have with us Director of Emergency Management for the state of Florida, Kevin Guthrie, as well as our Adjutant General for the Florida National Guard, Major General John Haas. Of course, we have a lot of local officials here from Levy County: Sheriff Bobby McCollum, EM Director John McDonald, Wilson Mayor Charles Goodman, Bronson Mayor Robert Parton. We have Representative Schoaf, we have Senator Perry, Senator Simon, County Chair Matt Brooke, and some other local officials as well. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everyone for their efforts to prepare for what is probably already become a hurricane, but certainly will be by the time it gets to Florida, Hurricane Idalia. We are taking action at the state level to prepare for the storm and for the response, particularly with respect to things like power restoration. We're going to have close to 4,000 linemen stationed in the state of Florida for when this storm hits, and the goal is going to be to send them to where it needs to be for power restoration. This will be a joint effort. We do want the local municipalities and municipal owned or co-ops to be willing to accept mutual aid from some of the other electrical companies, and the goal is to get the power back as fast as possible. We are fulfilling at the state level requests from the counties, so if you have requests, please send those in. We will get those turned around as we get into tomorrow afternoon. It may be the case where we start to see some nasty weather as the hurricane starts to get closer and closer, so there will be a limit as to when those will be due. So if you do now, you have a great chance to get that fulfilled without any problems. But contact Florida Division of Emergency Management if you need more resources. I have been in contact with the White House as well as FEMA. They have approved our request for a pre-landfall disaster declaration. I was just in Pinellas County meeting with local officials, and they have issued some evacuations for their barrier islands, and I think you should anticipate that. I know that as well for the coastal areas. The people that are in very vulnerable areas on the West Coast, you likely are under or will be under in order to evacuate. You don't need to evacuate far. You don't need to go hundreds of miles away. You don't need to try to outrun the storm. The evacuation is basically saying get away from the life-threatening storm surge. So you can go inland, you can be in a structure that can withstand hurricane force winds, and you can ride out the storm, and then you can go back to your home when all is clear. But you don't need to be driving hundreds of miles. If you go to a friend's house, family member, all that's fine. Just get away from the storm surge. That's the main thing that we're looking at. Now, there will be a 5 o'clock advisory issued by the National Hurricane Center. We anticipate you could see a change in the track and a little movement of the cone. There have been some of these computer models that have been running this afternoon that have pushed the storm a little bit further on a westerly track. And all that means is that the further west it goes, the more it's likely to impact the northern part of Florida. The further east it goes, the more it gets into central Florida. There's still a lot of range of possibilities. Even if you're not in the cone, you can still face major impacts. But we do believe that you may see a track shift at the 5 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. As of right now, there's a hurricane warning in place for the entire Gulf Coast of Florida, from Sarasota County all the way up through Franklin County in Northwest Florida. So the impacts potentially can be very far and very wide. We are in a situation where the schools, there's been a number of school closures based on what the local school district, so parents just follow what your local school district is saying. And most of these Gulf counties, you're going to look to see Tuesday and Wednesday will likely be without school. So please just follow through with that. We have a lot of resources staged to be able to respond to the storm. We've got a couple 100,000 gallons of fuel in trucks and tankers that we can bring in if there's interruption in fuel. We have 7 urban search and rescue teams that are ready to deploy to impacted areas. Hopefully there's not going to be people that are going to need to be rescued, but if there are, we're going to have people there. And of course, water, tarps, MREs, all those things that are really important storm we're going to do. Now, your preparedness kit should be to have several days of water and non-perishable food. So when the state surges water and surges some of these things, the assumption is for those initial few days, have what you need, and you should have what you need. That's the way to do it. And then if there needs to be a surge of resources, then we can pick up and help from there, especially if the stores are closed or whatnot. Now during Ian, a lot of these gas stations, Publix, they came online very, very quickly. So that was a big positive. We still provided a lot of water. We provided a lot of rations and all that, and we're happy to do it. But they came on. Now if they're not on, then that's where this becomes important. But definitely prepare yourself so that you have several days worth of provision, and also just prepare to lose power. If you're in the path of the storm, especially in this area here, there's a lot of trees. There's gonna be trees that get knocked down. There's gonna be power lines that are gonna get knocked down. That's just the reality. So understand that, prepare for that. We have all these people stationed to try to get it connected as soon as possible, but there is going to be damage to the power grid and the power system with, I should say the grid, just the lines. You're going to see transmission interrupted. So please prepare accordingly. We now have 5,500 National Guardsmen activated and available. They've got a lot of resources at their disposal. We've also requested some additional rotary wing air assets. We've got 650 Starlink for internet access, ready to be deployed as needed. And clearly, if there's places that are without connectivity and power, we want to get that there so people can get back and be connected again. We also know that there have been state colleges that have announced closures, Florida Gateway College in Lake City, North Florida College, Pasco Hernando. There may be more that are coming as we go forward. All in all, listen to your local officials. I know here in Levy County, they've issued the guidance and the directives. I think people have been very responsive. We saw with Hurricane Ian, some of this storm surge, it's not something that you want to mess with. That's the thing that can be really, really deadly is the storm surge. And so the old kind of saying is, you run from the water by evacuating away, and then you hide from the wind by being in a structure that can withstand. And most structures in Florida are going to be able to withstand a Category 3 type of a system. This could be a Cat 3 plus type deal. I mean, it looks like it's going to continue to strengthen over the very warm waters of the Gulf, but it's the surge in the water that is really the most deadly when it comes to these hurricanes. If you are without power and you decide to use a generator, please use that generator appropriately. Do not run your generator inside your house. The exhaust from that could kill you. If you don't run it inside your garage, you got to run it outside the house, at least 20 feet away from a window or a door, and have that exhaust facing away from your house. We don't want to have any fatalities because of misuse of generators. And I know we've got a lot of new Floridians who may not have experienced a hurricane yet. That is something, the generator safety, that's very, very important. Go to floridadisaster.org/get a plan. If you have any questions about what you need to do to prepare, you still have time to get what you need today and even for probably most of tomorrow. As we get into tomorrow night, certainly as we get in, if we're further south in here in the Tampa Bay area, you're going to start to see effects up in Levy and north of here. You're going to see as the day goes on, we get into Wednesday, there's going to be impacts far before it actually makes landfall. So just be prepared for that and anticipate that. All right, we're going to hear from a couple people right now. We have Florida DEM Director Kevin Guthrie.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you for your leadership, as always. I want to thank John McDonald. He's one of those guys that takes my calls at 6 a.m. in the morning whenever I get up and running. And, you got one of the best emergency management directors here in Levy County that's along the Gulf Coast. So, John, thank you for your friendship and your partnership. The state is standing by right now, as the governor has mentioned, with water MREs, TARP, specialized equipment, liaisons, water rescue teams, shelter nurses, Florida National Guard support, Starlinks, and many other items, flat bottom boats, airboats, and urban search and rescue teams coming from South Florida. We need to take this time now ahead of landfall to evaluate your capabilities. And when I say your capabilities, I'm talking about the homeowner, the business owner's capabilities. We need to know what you need. You need to contact your local emergency management agency. If you're a special needs individual, you need to contact John and his team, find out where your special needs shelter is at. Do you need extra time? Do you need assistance in getting to that shelter? That's something John and his staff can help you out with. If he needs assistance, then he's obviously going to call us, and we're going to be here to help out as well. This morning, the State Emergency Operations Center activated to a full level 1 activation, meaning that everyone that is a part of state government is available for response to the storm. We received a pre-landfall declaration, as the governor has mentioned, from FEMA, and as of 11 a.m., Tropical Storm Idalia was located about 80 miles southwest of the western tip of Cuba, and it was forecast to strengthen as it moves forward. As the governor's mentioned, we already have hurricane warnings in effect from Longboat Key all the way north to Ocklawackney River, including Tampa Bay. Tropical storm warnings are in effect for the Dry Tortugas, northward through the middle of Longboat Key and west to over the Ocklawackney River, westward to Indian Pass. Storm surge warnings are in effect from Englewood northward all the way to Ocklawackney River, including Tampa Bay. When we talk about storm surge warnings, the governor mentioned it, but I just got to put an exclamation point on it. Storm surge and freshwater flooding are the number 1 and 2 killers of individuals inside of disasters, especially hurricanes. Please, if you're in an area that has a storm surge watch or warning, you need to be paying attention. If you're in Levy County, you need to be listening to what John McDonald says. If he asks you to leave, if he asks you to evacuate, please do that. I mentioned earlier today, 1 cubic yard of water, 3 foot by 3 foot, is 1,700 pounds. 1,700 pounds will move a car. It will move furniture. It will move grandfather clocks. It will move pianos. It can cause blunt force trauma inside of homes. If you're staying in your home, you do not want to be dealing with hundreds of cubic yards of water inside your home. So again, please listen to John and his team and do what they ask you to do. We encourage every Floridian to activate your emergency preparedness plan now. As I said this morning, we're doing our job here at the state level. We need you to do your job at home. Make sure that you, your home, your businesses, your family are prepared. If you need more information, as you heard from the governor, you can go to floridadisaster.org/get a plan, and that will walk you through how you can get your plan and your kit prepared. We are in the middle of Florida sales tax holiday, so please make sure you take advantage of that. The information that is tax-free eligible is on our website as well. If you decide to evacuate, do not leave your pets behind. They will not survive. There's at least one one pet-friendly shelter in each county, and you can travel to that shelter with your pets. Many hotels may also choose to be more accommodating during these times. The Rosen Hotel system inside of Central Florida has activated their distress rate, so they're trying to help out and give people in Floridians a place to go to evacuate as well. And again, that's tens of miles, probably about on the outside edge, about 80 miles from here. So again, if that can help you, please take advantage of that. Please make sure you stay in touch with John's team as well as the Division's team. You get all of our updates at floridadisaster.org/updates. Governor, again, thank you for your leadership.
All right, we're going to have EM Director John McDonald come up.
Thank you, Governor. Thank you, Director Guthrie. Just a little synopsis of where we're at today. We started doing some protective action decision-making processes on Sunday, yesterday. We went to a level 1 activation at 7 a.m. this morning. We did do mandatory evacuation for coastal communities, anybody in mobile homes, RVs and RV parks, also low-lying areas, and anybody that's in an already water inundated area, even though it's not low level. So we sent that evacuation order out about 2 hours ago. Our shelters will be opening up at 8 a.m. in the morning. For those that need to seek information or are having trouble finding information that we're putting out, you may be new to our county, please visit levydisaster.com on the website. Also, we have an app, which is the Levy Disaster app. You can go to your Apple Play Store or your Android Play Store and download that app. It's free. It's kind of a one-stop shop. All the information that we push out, all the information that National Weather Service pushes out, their NWS alerts and all that, it all comes through that app. So you'll get push notifications instantaneously. So we have that. And then we also have our Facebook, Levy Facebook LCDEM. You can go there. We update that quite regularly. So you'll start seeing a lot more stuff come out a lot quicker today. Now that we've kind of come up for air for a little bit, but the municipalities and those coastal areas, I can't stress this enough that we've been fortunate in storms and stuff that we've had in the past. Those that remember the no-name storm in '93, those that remember the Hurricane Hermine in 2016, every one of those were kind of minimal to us and all that, except for Hermine was a little bit rougher. But the folks out there in Cedar Key, they remember that. The folks in Yankeetown, they remember that. So I can't stress this enough. When the mandatory evacuations come out, I don't take those things lightly. I don't put them out there lightly. So when you see the mandatory evacuation come out, you need to heed that warning. Storm surge is real, folks. It is the number one killer. And my biggest concern with my job, what I do, is fatalities. That's not my equation. So take heed of these warnings, all that. And I thank y'all for the things that y'all have done as a citizen so far. You seem to be really receptive to the protective actions and all that come out. We'll be sending more as the day goes on. So the shelters, like I said, again, 8 o'clock a.m. in the morning for both our general pet friendly shelter and our special needs shelter. If you have any questions, call our rumor information line, citizens information line. It is 352-486-5155 or 352-486-5576. Other than that, that is all I have. I thank you, Governor. Thank you, Director Guthrie.
Sheriff.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank the Governor and his staff and all those that are here with us today, Director Guthrie, and all they do to assist us here in Levy County. That assistance is ongoing, as you've heard, and it will continue throughout this event. I can't reiterate enough what has been said, that we've escaped the last few years with any major storm or other than storm surge and flooding and those kind of things. We can certainly expect that this time. We expect this storm, if it stays like it is now, to be an extremely stronger storm than we've faced in a long time. And as Sheriff, I want to thank my employees and all the county staff and our commissioners and all for their support. And we're actively in action now and trying to protect our county. My ultimate goal as Sheriff and responsibility is to not only serve our citizens, but to keep them safe. And I can't say it enough that this evacuation order has been out. Our shelters will open at 8 o'clock in the morning. Please don't wait. Our citizens, our residents, please don't wait to the last minute. We cannot get to you after we start having sustained winds of 35 to 40 to 45 miles per hour. Emergency medical can't get there. My deputies can't get there to you. We have the resources available to get to you as soon as the storm is over and those sustained winds are gone. But please take advantage as soon as you can tomorrow of the opportunity to shelter. I can't, again, say that enough. Again, thank you for everyone for your support. We need your thoughts and prayers as we go through this. Hopefully that we're going to get even maybe a little better news with the 5 o'clock briefing, but we don't know. We're in the path as we speak. We've got to do everything we can to protect our county and our citizens and our resources here. So thank you, Governor. We appreciate you and thank you for all you do.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we are, we'll be doing another briefing from Tallahassee later tonight. We'll reflect any change, if there is any change in track guidance from the National Hurricane Center after the 5 o'clock advisory. But I think the people here in Levy County are doing the right thing. Prepare, listen to the local officials, and just make sure that you're doing what you need to do to keep yourself and your family safe. Okay, we'll talk soon. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Cautious Love, for sharing it. I'm in the, I want to watch some videos because there's like 2 or 3 different weather things going on there. I just learned this. I've learned a lot about weather living in Florida and these fucking hurricanes, man. what the fuck is I talking about? I just scrolled off. Oh, there's different, like there's a European weather tracker, of course, an American one, and there's like another one or something. And but like they say the European one is the one that is usually the closest to what really happens, you know? Like last year I went through Hurricane Ian and it was supposed to hit the whole fucking Tampa Bay area in Tampa. And that's where I was. But we didn't get evacuated or not because the hurricane shifted south. Poor people. It was horrible. It was really bad where it really hit. And they had zero time to prepare because for like over a week, the path was still the same. It was coming straight toward Tampa, you know. And that's like where Clearwater, it's a bunch of areas in there. They evacuated. But, this year I got an evacuation notice and I didn't last year. But it hit the people below us last year when it was supposed to hit us. It switched in a day and I felt so bad it tore that place up. And we kind of didn't have time to prepare for this one either. And but I'm evacuating. I'm going to go get a hotel for me and my dogs. And I take this shit serious because this is the third hurricane. I went through one in North Carolina years ago in Lumberton, North Carolina, Hurricane Matthew. Me and Allie was talking about this earlier. And I went through it and it was horrible. It was a lot of rain and like not long after we left, because we like closed early and everything. We left really early. Like that whole little town area was like 20 feet underwater. But I went through Hurricane Ian last year, and any other state that has hurricanes ain't got shit on fucking some of these Florida ones. I know, like, you know, there's been horrible places hit by hurricanes up through the East Coast there, but every year they get us in the Gulf. That's the thing, you know, it's a circle in there and it's just hot as fuck. And the hotter the weather, the more chance of a hurricane. I keep up with the weather here too. I got a NOAA radio, you know, it goes off, gives me warnings. I didn't have all this shit last year. I'm prepared this year and I'm getting the fuck out of Dodge. But it's not changing this year on us and it's coming really fast. So it's gonna hit Tampa and the whole area there. Tampa's huge. There's a whole little area there, you know. Then you got St. Pete, Clearwater, and all them. They're there together. But you know what I mean? I learned last year. I'm out. Fuck that. But I wrote it out last year, and it was some pretty fucking bad weather. It put trees down and shit around me, a lot of trees. Got a lot of wind and water. And this year, everything happened so fast, but we had more time to prepare than them poor people last year that took the storm we was supposed to have got. Yeah, thank you, Cassius. It's horrible. And some don't leave. But like last year, whenever Ian hit down Sarasota area or whatever, down through there, Fort Myers, they had like less than a day to prepare because the Hurricane Ian shifted so fast. You know what I mean? It went south of me instead of where it was. It's coming right at me. Like it would have took a lot of Tampa. It would have fucked Tampa up, the whole area a lot. But it shifted in less than a day. I don't know. It was really fucking quick. I know that. And it was like, and I just wrote it out because I seen that it shift and I was watching it. You know, and I know a little bit about hurricanes too. My daddy lives in the South, Southern Alabama, and they get like, not like Florida, but it is better safe than sorry. Last year, you know, like I said, I didn't know what to expect. I was here by myself. I was like, what the fuck? And yeah, I'm out this time. We're going to leave in the morning because it's supposed to hit tomorrow night. And I'm out. It's crazy. I just pray for people though, for real, because it's a whole different feeling. And my plan's going to be now, I'm moving. I'm fuck Florida and these hurricanes. I don't see how it has to be people's been here forever. Every fucking the end of summer. I don't see how they do it well, it ain't every year, but we've had a pretty few bad hurricanes, like Ian, it was pretty bad. It fucked some shit up. And people still ain't got no place to live and shit. It's sad. FEMA sucks, in my opinion. It was wild last year riding it out. I seen it, and it was wild. It was wild. Yeah, I don't think it's going to shift this time. I think Tampa's about ready to get the hurricane. And it sucks. God, it sucks. Which I'm like not in Tampa, but it still gets you. Storm surges and shit. The storm surge is what, like, they said that this area where I'm at, it's more inland. It's going to get the brunt of the fucking, where that includes, like, it's not, you can get bad weather storm surges outside the hurricane, tornadoes and just rain and flooding. But we're right at the brunt of that. And they evacuated us this year. They didn't evacuate us last year. We was right there close to it, but it shifted. And it's horrible, Cassius Gems. It is. And it's getting worse down here in Florida because last year Hurricane Ian hit like end of September. Like, that's hurricane season is like from June to like November or October or something. Which it's never really October, it's September usually. And this year it started early. We got one in fucking August, and I think we'll get another bad one this year. It's just because it gets hotter and hotter down here. That water, hotter the water, you get a hurricane. The water, like, to start it was like 86 degrees. Could you imagine 86-degree water? It's hot as fuck. Fucking Ian was wild though, and it was the slowest fucking hurricane to get here, and it just lasted and lasted. The rain, the wind, the even days and the day before and days after, it was crazy. Which I don't mind the water, so the wind and trees falling and fuck shit up, and I don't like a wind. I don't mind a little bit, but I don't want to feel my house rocking. It's wild. My plan is to move out of Florida. I can't do this. No, it's not for me. I love Florida. I love the heat. I can handle 100-degree heat and humidity, 140 fucking to 6. I can handle that. I'm used to the heat. I love it. I'm a Southern girl. It's the heat don't bother me. I don't love it, but it. And then you got the hurricanes. That's the worst part. Not even the cost of living. I've been all over the country working, and it's not as bad as people think it is. I mean, your house and stuff, but I'm out. I'm out. I need to be a little further inland. But the whole like state of Florida, you're fucked if you're getting a hurricane on the east or west coast, and it's usually fucking east coast or the west coast because of the Gulf. Get a hurricane in a circle of water. The poor panhandle, though, it gets hit hard a lot. But it's the Gulf. But they're not going to really get this. You'll get wind and rain. But if you're in that fucking cone or the eye area, you better fucking skedaddle. I'm serious. It's nothing to fuck with. Yeah, bath water. I like hot showers. But yeah. Oh yeah, I'd get in that water. It feel good as fuck. But it's hot outside too, you're used to it kind of. I miss having 4 seasons. Where I come from, we got the 4 seasons, and it was the best. Summer's always been my favorite. But when you get kind of year-round summer, then you get these fucking hurricanes. It's like, God bless. Tasha's Gyms, I worked when I was out traveling on the road for 10 years straight. You know, I worked year round. Like in the wintertime, I'd go to Miami and work for 3 months. And there's a lot, like in the spring, a lot of places that travel like that work in Florida through the spring and stuff. And then it's hot, and I don't know, you just get used to the heat because you're in Florida a lot until summer, and then you start going out of state. You know, it's when you start going usually all the way up the East Coast to New York, and it depends on what company you work for and shit. But a lot of places stay in Florida, you know, for a while working, and you get used to it. And then I've lived in, you know, Miami. I worked down there 3 months. How many years did I do that? I've probably done that 6 years of my career. 6 winters I lived in Miami. I love Miami. It's a dirty city. It ain't what it portrays on TV and shit. But I love Miami. And they don't really get a lot of hurricanes, but they do get like flooding and shit a lot. It's pretty bad. They got one recently, but it's not like these fucking hurricanes up here. But I want out of Florida. Because no matter where you're at in Florida, you can get fucking hurricane weather, tornadoes and shit. Because it's such a slim state. Then you got the panhandle. I don't want to go. I want to stay in the South though, but I want out of Florida. Fuck Florida. I can handle anything else. Gators. I'm getting used to gators. It's crazy. I'd ever say that, but you know. And then there's a lot of lizards and iguanas, and there's a lot of critters down here. And I'm used to it. I kind of like it, you know. But hurricanes, I can't do no fucking Mother Nature shit like that. I can't do it. Where it's that bad. There's going to be another hurricane this year. You watch. I guarantee it. September, probably mid-September or somewhere. There's going to be another hurricane. Yeah, like a trucker. Yeah, you work in Florida a lot because of the weather, you know, because you go up north, it gets cold and shit, you know, certain times of year and stuff, and can't make no money. And that's why a lot of people work in Florida, you know, when you're traveling and stuff like that. My brother's a truck driver. But yeah. I love Florida. The weather. I love it down here. I'm tired. I'm burnt out kind of, you know. I need like some southern Georgia. My daddy lives in Alabama, which they get storms from the hurricanes, but it's not like he's like way inland, you know what I mean? It's not, he's right on the Alabama line to the panhandle. But yeah, I want out of Florida. I go to Georgia, Florida, somewhere's in the south. I don't really want snow. I miss snow because we had 4 seasons, but I don't want that crazy snow. I can handle a little cold, but I don't. And fuck California, their weather, they have, when I was out there, it's really hot in the summer, but it's not humid. You know what I mean? And then their winters, all it does is, like, I was in the Sacramento and more Northern California working most of the time. And it's like dry humidity. I don't know. And it makes you not sweat. It could be 100 degrees in California and you won't sweat as much. You might. I didn't. And I was fucking used to Florida heat. But God bless, it got hot out there. But the humidity, they both suck. I love that I've got to experience certain weathers, you know, and it rains a lot in California in the winter. It rains a lot. All it does is fucking rain a lot. It gets cold. I got the coldest I ever got in my life when I worked in Miami. I'll never forget it, man. My bones fucking hurt. I was so cold. It gets cold down there sometimes too, but not like it goes away the next day or so. Cassis Gyms, that makes total sense. I get that. So I grew up, we had snow. You know, I had some of my best childhood memories in snow when I was a kid. There's this great big hill because we live, you know, we live in the mountains. But anyways, there's this big hill and it went like almost straight down. It was part of the road. And every year, like on holidays, like Christmas, Thanksgiving, because we'd all meet at my mom's. And the hill was right down from my mom's house. And we had sleds and shit. And it was always snow and we loved it. especially Christmas. My uncle, he'd take all of his kids out to that hill and stuff and would build a fire. It was some of the best times of my life. And I do kind of miss snow like on Christmas, you know, because I was used to having snow on Christmas or being cold at least on Christmas. Florida, you don't get that. You get 80 degrees, bam, Merry Christmas. I miss traditional stuff, you know? I should have been born in like the 60s, I swear. It's when my mommy was born and my daddy. I wish I was born in their era, but I'm good with being born in the early 80s because I got to experience a lot before what times are today. I got to see like the first cell phone to come out, and you know what I mean? And like my best memories are the 90s. I love the 90s. I'm a 90s fanatic. I grew up in the 90s. I love it. I think that was the best times that it's been around a while, you know, like my generation. Because we didn't have internet. It was like dial up finally started, and that was, I'll never forget dial up internet. I just miss the things like that. I wish times didn't change so fast. Let's watch a little bit of this hurricane. I want to, let's see here. I'll pull up some live things we can watch. Let's see who's live. WFLA, motherfucker strike. I want a good one. Right here. Let's see. I don't believe there's any sound on this, and I don't know why. Maybe it's just showing the radar. Yeah, I think it's just no sound on it. See, that's the West Coast. Now, see, this is the East Coast. It's over here in the Gulf. Man, hurricanes love the Gulf. Fuck that Gulf. Uh-uh. Yeah, I'm evacuating this year. Fuck that. It ain't changing, and it's... Yeah, fuck that.
from the school districts about schools being closed.
Okay, that one just kept showing the same shit. I want a live radar. Not the fucking repeat bullshit. Hold on, I got us.
The early 1800s that originally made a scale to say, okay, here's what you do with the sails on your sailing ship. That's what these divisions were originally.
And it made it complicated for us with
Yeah.
this.
We're going to start to feel the effects. And as we know, as predicted, and we know there could be a wobble, but this is going to come in late Tuesday night, overnight into Wednesday. And we are now in a very fluid situation here on the coast, just outside of Tampa in Florida. Ian?
Yeah, Robert, we'll be watching for every little jog left or right with this. And part of what makes Pinellas County so beautiful is that stretch of barrier islands that you're on. But those are not a safe place to be when we're talking about a potential storm surge up to 7 feet. Robert Ray, thank you. We'll be checking back in.
Yeah.
Not only is the state of Florida preparing for a major hurricane, those planning to cover the storm are also doing the same. Fox Weather exclusive storm tracker Mark Sudduth joins me now. And Mark, you have tracked just about everything in what's been a bizarre 2023 so far, except a major hurricane, which you are now. What's the plan moving forward and your strategy for covering this particular storm?
Well, good to be back with you. You know, a week ago, I was driving from California to Phoenix to get to Texas. Now I'm in Florida, Brendan, Florida, after being in Orlando. Getting everything ready. As you can see behind me, we have a lot of equipment. We're going to set up meteorological equipment. The live cameras that we have, we're going to pepper those across the coast from the Big Bend down into very close to probably where Robert Ray is, to give us a look and a perspective that even the great Robert Ray would have to flee from, especially up north where that 11-foot surge is predicted. These cameras will take the place of people.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mark. I got you back. I'm taking a look. I was actually looking at your background there. You said you're in Brandon. I think that's the crosstown, the Selman Expressway right behind you, which means you're not far from the Topgolf in that area. This is a scenario as the technology evolves, your equipment has evolved. I know you have more resources as compared to last year, and some of that is actually weather instrumentation. So you're going to be able to tell us in real time some of the conditions that are occurring while simultaneously giving us those vantage points from the spots that are getting hit the hardest, correct?
That's exactly right. We want to take what we learned even from last year. We're not even up to a year yet since Ian, and we learned a lot about our technology, how to do things better, how to improve it. We're going to apply that knowledge here in this event here with Idalia, starting tomorrow through Wednesday, of course, for wind readings, pressure readings. That's the scientific part of this. And then those all-important visuals, getting these cameras where we want to see those impacts close, up close and personal, again, where people have no business being, that's where this technology will take the place of our eyes. These cameras will be our eyes and our ears. It'll be quite spectacular. But unfortunately, that's also going to mean it's going to be very destructive for people, places, and things.
You said that it's a place where people should not be, and that is the key message. The cameras can be there, and it's not a problem. So the science has to happen now. As you spread out your equipment, how many cameras and weather sensors do you have? And how did you make that decision when we're talking about a reasonable spread from left to right across the cone for where this storm could actually come ashore?
Well, we've brought 2 of these complete weather stations with us here that'll give us wind readings and pressure readings in real time. And then, of course, the live camera systems. We have at least a dozen live camera systems and then about 7 GoPro camera systems that are used to record video in case the network goes down. We use the terrestrial network, the cellular network, to broadcast the live feeds. But as we know, that can suffer in a hurricane situation. So these GoPro cams in specially designed cases with batteries will record no matter what. So there's a lot of things that have to come together. But as we have seen from our past work, when it does, it gives us a look unlike anything that we could do with our physical selves.
Yeah, Mark, the live imagery is invaluable as we're getting a sense of what's actually occurring moving through a storm like this. We'll be checking in with you frequently. We appreciate you chatting with us. Mark Sudduth, thank you.
Absolutely. We'll see you.
Remember, Fox Weather is your hurricane HQ. We will be bringing you continuous coverage on Idalia as it makes its trek toward Florida. You can download the Fox Weather app for updates and alerts on the storm's path. We'll have more on Idalia when Fox Weather comes right back.
I was looking at the wind gusts here. This is well south of Cuba. So this is well outside the storm. This one over here, though, as you can see on the south side, pretty good gusts. It's coming up, and Cancun is on the so-called weak side of the storm. So just kind of interesting. All right. So here's the thing. Here you can see that high pressure is going to build in like this. The nose of high pressure, Franklin, kind of up in there and moving out, right? So Franklin gets out of the way, allows high pressure to come in instead, and that creates flow, and then the dip in the jet stream coming. So the thing is, we're trying to predict exactly what the nose of the high pressure is going to be shaped like, and what the dip in the jet stream is exactly going to be shaped like. And that's why, if you think about that, just a little bit of angle difference makes a tremendous difference.
And is that knowable in the short term as we're trying to find where that intense inner core actually ends up developing?
No, especially since the core hasn't really completely developed yet, right? So as you were talking about earlier, sometimes cores develop thunderstorms. So you have a cluster of thunderstorms develops on the east side. It wants to pull the center that way.
Right.
And so it moves 25, 30 miles over. And then 25 or 30 miles when you get up near Tampa Bay.
Right, that's not one-to-one. It's 25 miles in initial
and
to
then
get
it's
things
an
started.
Angle because
right.
of the angle, the growth there. And you can see that if it comes in closer to Cedar Key, that's one thing for Tampa. Comes in closer to Spring Hill, that's an entirely different thing.
Yeah, so we mentioned that you've got Tampa's Nature Coast County, Tampa Bay's Pasco, Hernando, and Citrus. Then you get down into Hillsborough and Pinellas. Zone A in both of those places have had evacuation orders for exactly what you're discussing. Even a path toward the left of this still has a significant onshore component and a surge that has to be reckoned with.
Yeah, so every county south, on the whole state, actually, south of where the storm comes ashore, where the center comes ashore, has onshore winds. everywhere there's a storm surge alert of some kind for the possibility of storm surge. The most is up right near the storm,
Right.
obviously, but everybody has it. And I was going to say Hernando County has evacuation
Yes.
order. and they
I
were
think
the
A,
first
B, and
one.
C for those three, right?
Yes. So Hernando County was the first one. That's up north of Tampa, because that's really, well, first of all, you get down near the Gulf in Hernando County, and there's not much there. You have to
Right.
get away from that. You have to get
Yeah.
well away.
Hernando's especially marshy. I remember giving a talk to the Coast Guard Auxiliary Reserve right there in Hernando Beach,
Right.
and you're just looking out into marsh in the Gulf of Mexico. There's nothing for cover.
And when you leave there, you have a long way to go to get up to high ground.
Mhm.
So you have to get people out. That's up here in this part of Florida, north of Tampa. Okay, so here's the idea. We're talking about everybody has wind coming on shore. Look, wind is coming on shore here. Wind is coming on shore. So everywhere south of where that center line is, the wind is going to push the water on shore, and that's why we have storm surge alerts for those coastal counties.
If there's good news in this, is that this is a storm that kind of has, we discussed, been wobbling around.
Right.
It's not something that's been around like an Irma that we watched for 2 weeks across the basin that's going through eyewall replacement cycle. So the overall wind field isn't huge, and it's going to be moving fairly quickly.
Yeah. So yes, it's not little either.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not Hurricane Charlie, but it's not huge, which is a big thing, because storm surge is caused by huge storms. It's like, if you take your hand in the bathtub and push water, you get a certain amount of water moving. You take your arm and push it,
Right.
you get a lot more water moving, right? So big storms make a lot more storm surge. So these storm surge numbers that we're talking about are amazing high numbers when you think about relation to people, but they're not compared to what you can have on the West Coast if you have a big
Yes.
storm. So the storm surge warnings are in effect from the Big Bend on down to Englewood, which is north of the Fort Myers area there. And let's look at the specific numbers, because it's the storm surge that prompts evacuations. So right, they go hand in hand. If the National Hurricane Center forecasts dangerous, life-threatening storm surge, then emergency managers and politicians are supposed to order evacuations. That's how the
Yes.
system works.
There's so much new construction down in Florida beyond 2020. Most of it related to your storm.
Mhm.
You're an expert on Andrew. That rewrote the building codes.
Right.
That's especially the case beyond 04, 05. But the homes can stand up to wind.
Right.
It's the surge that is of great concern.
Yeah, and actually in modern homes, because of the whole flood insurance issue, are generally more elevated and so forth. But obviously, most of Florida was built before all this happened, and most of the neighborhoods were laid out before all this happened, so they're very vulnerable. And so you have here in the Nature Coast, you have two things going on. One is it's super prone to storm surge, right? You just up here in Appalachia Bay, this is Appalachia Bay here. So think of that as a huge catcher's mitt. So anytime the wind is blowing water up into that, it just gets caught there, and more water comes and more water comes, and the ground is very low. Like you said, it's marshy and so forth. So it floods like crazy up there. So you have a big forecast, besides the fact that's where the core of the storm right now is forecast to most likely go. But then down here, not that this is unvulnerable. We just saw it last year in Fort Myers Beach, how vulnerable it is. Well, why is that? Because offshore here, you have a big old shelf. What is it about? It's about 100 miles out.
Yeah.
Right.
And you can go out an incredible distance
Right.
there if you're doing some fishing. That to me was kind of mind blowing as a
Yeah.
kid that grew up on the south coast of Massachusetts.
Right.
Moving to Tampa Bay, you're out, 50 miles and you're only in a few hundred feet of water.
Right. And if you're in Clearwater Beach and you just walk out from the beach, you can
Yeah,
kind of walk
yeah.
and walk and walk and walk. Well, that's wonderful up to a point. But the thing is, when there's a surge of water that's coming in here like this, it hits that shelf and now it's lifted. Right. So, and then more water comes onto that already lifted shelf, and then the water keeps going in, but it's all lifted. So the difference being that if you're on the east coast of Florida, the waves break.
Yeah.
Right. You have this reef out there and the energy comes and it breaks in big waves. On the west coast of Florida, you don't get the big waves, you get the lifting of the water. So it goes farther inland.
And this go around, as we move toward the final day of the month, we've got the full moon. If you lived in one of these places, say in Pinellas County or in the Bay, you probably would have noticed that the water was higher than normal anyway,
Right.
in the absence of a major hurricane we're expecting.
Did you look and see how much the moon is different? Is it a footish?
It's like half a foot,
Half
but
a
that's significant.
Significant. It's
Yeah.
amazing what a difference. I mean, having lived in Miami Beach for a long time, the water has come up in my time there about 6 inches, and it's dramatic how
Right,
how
they
you
have fair
notice-
weather flooding.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes, right. Which we didn't have before. They had to raise the street in front of my house because the water would come up out of the drains because of that 6-inch difference. It's
And
incredible.
then as we move through a couple of high tide cycles where we'll have this onshore component, this will be water that would have flown back out into the deeper portions of the Gulf
Right.
and will not be able to.
It can't. That's the idea. Is the water gets pushed in, and then it's stuck there because more water is getting pushed in. All right, we talked about downtown Tampa before, but we didn't talk about MacDill down here, Tampa International.
Mhm.
They're closing Tampa International.
Yeah, Tampa International right in here.
Right. I assume that's because here I can move this over here. I assume that's because that'll flood.
Yeah.
Right. And you don't want to have a bunch of multi-million-dollar airplanes sitting around.
Mhm.
So they got to get pretty much everything out of there because they're closing it at midnight tonight. Well, that's early in this process. St. Petersburg's staying open until tomorrow afternoon. So it's not the weather that's closing it. It's got to be that they have to move people
Yeah,
and
This
physical
is
things out.
expensive equipment we're talking
Right.
about. That was a big talker after Michael at Tyndall when it was the F-35s. A handful of those were lost. Those are billion-dollar aircraft.
Right.
Geography is so problematic when you're talking about the surge in Tampa Bay. And I know that your key here is the messaging to act early to save yourself some trouble. If you're leaving Pinellas County, if you're in Zone A, there's only 3 ways out of there. You've got the Gandy, the Howard Franklin Bridge, and the Courtney Campbell Causeway. When these close, now you're on local roads. Yeah, welcome back to Fox Weather Now. Idalia targeting Florida's Gulf Coast. The threat's beginning as early as tomorrow with heavy rain and gusty winds. Now is the time for folks in Florida to take action and prepare for the storm's impacts. We've got Fox Weather's Kendall Smith with us with more on how to stay safe and get prepared. Because, Kendall, if you use this time now when it's safe, it takes a lot of the stress and the danger out of it.
Yeah, and you are going to be far better off in the long run.
I'd be glad you did.
Exactly. And so we've been watching all of the videos coming in of folks filling up sandbags, preparing, doing exactly what they need to do. But I think oftentimes, we think about, we forget about the little things that we can do as well. A lot of just simple household items lying around can really go a long way in terms of helping ride out some difficult days ahead if you're staying and riding out the storm. If you're evacuating, different story, you need to leave. But, you can see those impacts. They are far reaching. We're anticipating widespread power outages. So notice the Big Bend of Florida all the way over to Jacksonville, Savannah, Charleston, and then even likely power outages from Dothan, Macon, all the way over to Wilmington. So it's important folks are preparing.
When you get big, powerful storms like this, the scope of power outages is in a whole different class.
Yes.
Like, for instance, with Irma, which was a much larger storm with the wind field than we were expecting this to be, there was hurricane conditions simultaneously. But Kendall, this one's going to be ramping up in intensity and picking up speed, meaning it could bring hurricane conditions potentially almost coast to coast.
It's incredible to think about. And so that's why it is so important folks are preparing, because that time it is kind of dwindling and dwindling fast. So you have to think about water. You need about 1 gallon of water per person, also even animal per day. You also need to make sure that you've got, some backup phone chargers, ways to get in touch with your loved ones. It's just so imperative that you've got that emergency preparedness kit on hand and ready to go.
Yeah, I spoke with some of my friends down in the Tampa Bay area. They said Publix was getting pretty wild even yesterday, which is why we urge you always in the very beginnings and before the hurricane season gets started, just get all this stuff ready to roll, because it's part of life down in the Sunshine State. Tropical Storm Idalia is set to become a major hurricane when it eventually makes a Florida landfall. Fox 13 Tampa Bay reporter Ariel Placencia is in Pinellas County with an update on the emergency there. And Ariel, the evacuation order has been given for Zone A. We know some of the geographical limitations of Pinellas County when it comes to getting in and out of that place. What's the latest there?
Well, hey there, Ian. So absolutely, evacuations start in about 2 hours at 7 p.m. Also happening at 7 p.m., that's going to be the opening of our first shelter here. It's a special needs shelter, and it's going to be at Johns Hopkins Middle School in St. Pete. Now, no surprise here, schools in Pinellas County, they are closed tomorrow and Wednesday because the county does use a lot of those school buildings as shelters. 10 of them will open first thing tomorrow. Now, let me talk a little bit more about this mandatory evacuation that, as you mentioned, does start at 7 p.m. in less than 2 hours. So this is going to be the evacuation of Zone A, and that does include all mobile homes. There is great concern here for the barrier islands and low-lying areas, especially when it comes to that incredible storm surge. The county recommending that anybody who's evacuating should move to a zone higher than Zone B, just in case conditions get worse as the days go on. Now, the governor was here in Pinellas County this afternoon, and he gave an update on preparations, which does include the fuel supply. So if you went to the gas station today in our area, I'm sure so many people saw long lines. We asked the governor about it, and here's what he had to say.
We do have a lot of fuel that is stationed. It's on the way. It's going to be pre-staged, 200,000 gallons of fuel. We had a good fuel response with Hurricane Ian. A lot of the gas stations got up pretty quickly. There may not end up being major interruptions in fuel supply, but there may be. And so we want to make sure that we have that available.
Now, the governor also said that Floridians in the path of the storm should be prepared to lose power, that he's been in talks with all the major utility companies today, and that about 40,000 linemen are in position and that they are ready to respond to any impacted areas. Now, back to Pinellas County for one more quick update here. So county officials tell me that about 340,000 residents are under that current evacuation order. Ian, you kind of touched on it. That is a lot of people, and it takes quite some time to evacuate. So for any residents here, they're asking that A, you should know what evacuation zone you're in, and B, when you are asked to leave, to please do so in a calm and timely manner. I'll send it back to you.
That is very good advice right there. Use this time to evacuate safely and without the stress that comes with waiting. Fox 13 Tampa Bay reporter Ariel Placencia, thanks for being with us on Fox Weather. Across the bay, Tampa is bracing for devastating impacts as tropical storm Idalia, but forecast to become a major hurricane. Emergency coordinator for Tampa Fire Rescue, John Antapasis, joins us now with the latest. John, thanks for being with us here on Fox Weather. Tampa is watching closely. We've been in scenarios like this where you're preparing for the worst and hoping for the best. Can you take us through Tampa Fire Rescue's hurricane preparedness plan and where you're at in it right now?
Yeah, we've been preparing and planning since really June 1st. We go through and update all our plans and procedures every hurricane season. We take lessons learned like from last year with Hurricane Ian, what worked well, what didn't work well, update our plans, update our trainings so that we are at the ready for these type of situations. So we've been preparing since the beginning of the hurricane season. We've been monitoring this storm early on in Friday to have our staff ready for this particular moment, but we are on the ready.
You mentioned Ian, of course, a major hurricane last year. How do you activate for a storm like that or like this when we're talking once again about major hurricane potential? And do you worry about sentiment with your messaging among the residents? We, in a sense, it was very impactful, but for the Tampa Bay area, you lucked out with Irma. Ian cut in south, so that eliminated the storm surge threat there. Do you worry about the messaging for the public?
I think just for the messaging, we harp on it throughout the season, and we have been lucky for the last 120 years. We haven't had that direct hit to the Tampa Bay area, but we know we need to be ready for any storm. Any storm potentially could be that one bad hurricane season for us in the city of Tampa. So we harp on messaging on social media, on our emergency notification system called Alert Tampa. And I think just all our residents are really heeding this warning, this one, because of potentially the significant impacts for this. We've been messaging, working closely with the National Weather Service to really plan for a Cat 3 hurricane potentially for our area and that potential storm surge. And our folks, we have an evacuation order that was put out earlier today. We're having shelters open, but we've been really harping that messaging early on.
Yeah, every one of these storms is so different shapes, sizes, impacts. For the Tampa area specifically, what's your biggest concern this go around?
We're a coastal community here in the city of Tampa, and we have bodies of water around the city. So we are very aware of the potential damages and impacts from storm surge, from flooding. We know our low-lying areas that can potentially flood even for heavy thunderstorms that we get sometimes during those summer days. So we monitor those areas. Our stormwater teams have already did some preventative maintenance to build up some of that capacity for some of those stormwater systems. But again, we're at the ready and pulled all our triggers for our emergency operations plans here at the city, and really urging our residents to heed all those evacuation warnings and put into play those plans with their families and start executing them now.
Yeah, a busy and dangerous period of time ahead. We thank you for what you do and for talking with us here on Fox Weather. John Antapasis, Emergency Coordinator for the Tampa Fire Rescue. Thank you, and stay safe.
Thank you, sir.
Not only is the state of Florida preparing for a major hurricane, those planning to cover the storm are also doing the same. Fox Weather exclusive storm tracker Mark Sudduth joins me now. And Mark, you have tracked just about everything in what's been a bizarre 2023 so far, except a major hurricane, which you are now. What's the plan moving forward and your strategy for covering this particular storm?
Well, good to be back with you. A week ago, I was driving from California to Phoenix to get to Texas. Now I'm in Florida, Brandon, Florida, after being in Orlando, getting everything ready. As you can see behind me, we have a lot of equipment. We're going to set up meteorological equipment. The live cameras that we have, we're going to pepper those across the coast from the Big Bend down into very close to probably where Robert Ray is, to give us a look and a perspective that even the great Robert Ray would have to flee from, especially up north where that 11-foot surge is predicted. These cameras will take the place of people.
Okay, I'm sorry, Mark, I got you back. I'm taking a look. I was actually looking at your background there. You said you're in Brandon. I think that's the crosstown, the Selman Expressway right behind you, which means you're not far from the Topgolf in that area. This is a scenario as the technology evolves, your equipment has evolved. I know you have more resources as compared to last year, and some of that is actually weather instrumentation. So you're going to be able to tell us in real time some of the conditions that are occurring while simultaneously giving us those vantage points from the spots that are getting hit the hardest, correct?
That's exactly right. We want to take what we learned even from last year. We're not even up to a year yet since Ian, and we learned a lot about our technology, how to do things better, how to improve it. We're going to apply that knowledge here in this event here with Idalia, starting tomorrow through Wednesday, of course, for wind readings, pressure readings. That's the scientific part of this. And then those all important visuals, getting these cameras where we want to see those impacts up close and personal. Again, where people have no business being, that's where this technology will take the place of our eyes. These cameras will be our eyes and our ears. It'll be quite spectacular, but unfortunately, that's also going to mean it's going to be very destructive for people, places, and things.
You said that it's a place where people should not be, and that is the key message. The cameras can be there, and it's not a problem. So the science has to happen now. As you spread out your equipment, how many cameras and weather sensors do you have? And how did you make that decision when we're talking about a reasonable spread from left to right across the cone for where this storm could actually come ashore?
Well, we've brought 2 of these complete weather stations with us here that'll give us wind readings and pressure readings in real time. And then, of course, the live camera systems. We have at least a dozen live camera systems and then about 7 GoPro camera systems that are used to record video in case the network goes down. We use the terrestrial network, the cellular network, to broadcast the live feeds. But as we know, that can suffer in a hurricane situation. So these GoPro cams in specially designed cases with batteries will record no matter what. So there's a lot of things that have to come together. But as we have seen from our past work, when it does, it gives us a look unlike anything that we could do with our